Hello, everybody. So, this is supposed to be the part 2 of the conclusion of my epic adventure. You'll notice different clothing, different background. This is the next day, obviously. This is actually April 12th. Where we left off in the conclusion video was I was talking about Independence, right? Visiting with my friends in Independence. It was amazing to reconnect with them again and to see them again. To see Thad's arcade that he had downstairs, nothing short of epic. I mean, that thing was awesome. I played some Tron, I played some Star Wars, played some Terminator. He wanted me to play the football game that he had there, and we just never got around to doing it. Nor did I get around to playing the Miss Pac-Man or or the Simpsons that he had. But I mean, like, he's kind of immersed himself into this world of arcades, and even got me turned on to this Discord group that he's part of. And like, while I'm kind of sort of fascinated by it, I don't know that I'm as invested in it as he is. But I mean, it's cool nonetheless. Except for, like, I've never in my life gotten so many notifications from Discord until having joined this. I mean, they talk a lot. I mean, not that's bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but wow. So the history of on Truman was nothing short of amazing, and it like I said, it had reaffirmed my liking for the man. Really, he made some incredible decisions, hard decisions, and said that in the same context he would do it again. He wouldn't change anything. He set aside his own personal prejudices. They say he grew up racist because he was in that culture, and that seeing what was happening to black soldiers in the military, black soldiers who actually sign up for the military so they can go fight and die for their country, moved him in such a way that he desegregated the military. I think I had filmed the video, but I think I edited that out because I got really hot under the collar about the whole segregation of the military in the first place, and how I went off on this tangent about Woodrow Wilson, who is probably the one U.S. president that I dislike the most. He was not a good president, and anyone who wants to defend him, I'll gladly have a debate with you, because he was not. He was kind of a scumbag, really, and I'll just leave it at that. So moving on from Independence, did not get to see Laney, and I did not get to go to see Jesse James's house because, well, Thad, Lauren, should I have stayed another night? Possibly, and I would have arrived today. But at this point, I knew I was going to arrive home anywhere between the 9th and the 12th, right? With emphasis on hoping that I would arrive on the 11th, because that would have been exactly a year from the day that I'd left, which is what I managed to do. I just got in really late last night. So from Independence, I went to Nebraska, right? Went to Grand Island, my grandfather's hometown, stayed the night there, drove the 41 miles to Fullerton. Didn't really explore the town so much because I really wanted to get on the road. And I'd spent quite a bit of time at the cemetery there, which happened to be at the edge of town, just as you're coming into town. It was right there. So And that took a while. It took me a while to find my great-great-grandfather's grave. And when you've undoubtedly seen that video dedicated to him, I mean, it was a very surreal moment for me. It was very emotional for me. I didn't break down and weep because, I mean, I'm like four generations removed, but it was just a solemn moment for me that I finally found the grave of my Kennedy ancestor. And it was amazing to see, well, to find it, because it's, you know what they say, you know, you find whatever it is that you're looking for, it's always in the last place that you look. And I was about to give up. I was about to leave, and then I finally found it. And it was such a surreal moment for me. Such a emotionally impactful moment for me. And I got to, I went down on one knee, I put my hand on the headstone, I took a moment of silence. I spoke to him. I said, hello, I am your great-great-grandson, and it's nice to meet you. And I took a little video of that experience, and when everything's all said and done, I said goodbye to my great-great-grandfather, and I told him that I truly hope to meet him in the afterlife, meaning I hope I make the list. I hope he made the list, and hope that we're both in heaven. So from there, I moved on, and I pushed on because I'd left so late in the day in Grand Island that, you know, I made it all the way to North Platte. And for some reason, I was thinking on the map, North Platte was further west than what it was. And on the grand scheme of things, it really didn't look like I'd gone very far. Like, I hadn't been on the road very long. It was like a couple hours later, and I stopped at North Platte to get gas, and then I ate, and I think I was charging up my phone a little bit. I might have uploaded another video. I'm not sure about that, but I just remember thinking, man, I'm not going to make Rollins. And which is true, I didn't, because I made it to Laramie. And as I was coming into Laramie, I saw that Abraham Lincoln monument that I had noticed coming out to Kentucky, going out to Kentucky, and I had made a mental thought that I wanted to go back and see it. So I pulled off the exit right then and there, because it's at an actual rest stop. So like, you could see it any time. That's why the video was nighttime video, and there was snow on the ground, and I guess the area had got a really good dumping of snow just like a day or two earlier, so that's why it was still there. But that was really surreal to see and to look up. I mean, I looked up at the statue, and from where I was, it was kind of creepy looking. Not gonna lie there. I opted to not push it. I probably could have made it to Rollins if I'd pushed it, but not knowing what the roads were like and having heard about, the snowy weather that had been there, I decided to play it safe, which was fine, because the motel room that I was in was actually the cheapest motel that I'd been in on the whole trip. I mean, I spent the least amount of money on a motel room there in Laramie. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a good motel room, and so I opted to stay there for the night. And what got me delayed again the following day, see, I should have been able to have gotten to at least Twin Falls, if not Boise, the following day. And then yesterday would have just been an easy trek home. What happened was, I got to BSing with the day clerk there at the motel when I was checking out. Come to find out, she's from McMinnville. All right, so here's another fellow Oregonian that I'm BSing with. right? And that was a couple hours. And then I really needed an oil change. I thought about pushing it off until Rock Springs, but then I was like, oh man, I'm already 200-300 miles overdue as it is. Would it have been the end of the world? No, not really. But I ended up going to Grease Monkey there. Well, actually, I went to Walmart first, and then I ate, and like it would have been a couple hours before they would have even seen me. I'm like, I don't have that kind of time. But that associate there in the tire center, she did tell me to watch out for the potholes and you know, the bad roads, and so I was mindful of that, and I saw a little bit of that on the way to Rollins. But I stopped at Grease Monkey. They got me in and out. They got me taken care of. Got my oil changed, and then I was on my way. Grease Monkey, by the way, is at 225 Worcester Drive, Laramie, Wyoming. Okay, it's just not even 5 miles past the Walmart there. Can't remember what exit that is, but I just gave you the address there. Grease Monkey. Good people. Really good people. If you are ever in that area and you need an oil change, they're going to get you in and out as soon as possible, and they're going to deal you right. So that's a special shout out to them. Grease Monkey. So what happened after that? I made my way on, kept going on. I stopped in Elk Mountain, which was probably about another hour or so. Not quite 2 hours down the road to top off. Chit-chatted with that guy too. He was from Texas, and we just had a good old chat there. And then he had advised me about the potholes and just the breaks in the road, and they were bad, and he wasn't kidding. And in fact, I even hit a pothole at one point. It was minor though, so but I pressed on, got to Rock Springs, and at Rock Springs I topped off again, and as I was waiting in line to get my snacks and stuff, this girl walks in, and I could swear it's a girl that I went to school with. Texted her sister. She's like, well, yeah, it could have been her. She had dark hair. I'm like, well, yeah, dark hair. She was very noticeable. She has a mole on her lip, and whereas her twin sister does not have the mole. That's how I always could tell the two of them apart. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful girls when we were growing up. Still are. They're really, really wonderful human beings, and I'm glad. I don't really talk to the one who I thought I saw so much as I talk to the other sister more, because I've seen her more, here and there. I saw her before I left Oregon last year, and we're Facebook friends, so we chit-chatted a little bit, and it was good good catching up with her. Hopefully we'll see her at the reunion later this year, our high school reunion. It's 30 years. So I trekked on all through the night to get to Pocatello. I really wanted to get further along, but again, I'm erring on the side of caution because I don't travel those roads as often as anyone else does. In hindsight, could I have gone further? Yeah, I could have. I absolutely could have gone to at least Twin. I would have missed Eden, and then you wouldn't have had the video of Eden that I posted. So everything worked out. So I stayed in Pocatello, and that Super 8 motel there, I'd recommend that Super 8 to anybody. So a big shout out to Super 8 Motel there in Pocatello, Idaho. If you're in the area and you need to crash for the night, go there. So after Pocatello was, well, really, here, right? So I didn't go to Twin because I didn't really need to go there, but I did stop in Eden, and I went to the Garden of Eden, went to the Traveler's Oasis, and topped off, went to the restroom, took some pictures, took some video, and then moved on. And then the next stop was Boise. Went to a truck stop. I ate some lunch. Restroom, top off. Well, no, I don't think I topped off in Boise. Maybe. I'm not sure. But after Boise, I moved on. I just kept going. And then I got through Ontario. Actually, when I hit the border, I made another video and jokingly said, "Oregon, I'm in you." I was filled with a lot of emotions then too, and I was feeling very emotional at having been gone for a year, and I had made a remark about, feeling like the prodigal son had returned, but yet in the biblical story, the prodigal son had been gone 7 years and I'd only been gone 1. Somehow, in some way, it still felt appropriate for me anyway. So, and then I was just moving right along. In fact, I went right through Ontario, not realizing that I'd driven through Ontario. Just a little bit ago, I talked to Matt, who lives there, and he was like, "Hey, I didn't even get this message until way late." And I'm like, "That's all right, man. It's cool." I don't think I'll see him at the reunion. He's really not one for reunions. He's never been to one yet. So he has his family. He has his career. He kind of does his own thing, and it's okay. Different strokes for different folks. So I got going on up the hill there, and then there was a stranded motorist, and I stopped there. I stopped at the stranded, to kind of help them out to see if there was anything I could do, and I did a video on that as well. I felt bad for I really wasn't able to do anything. Basically, they just, they didn't even have a tire jack or a tire iron, which I did have, but they didn't have a spare tire. I mean, if they had a spare tire, I would have pulled my stuff out and we would have just, got them taken care of and had them back on the road. But as it was, they had to wait for someone to come with a tire iron and a tire jack, and they had to get someone to come there so they can jack up the tire, pull the tire off, and then take it back into town to have it fixed, because they had this little air compressor couldn't have been more than like yay big, and it's just plugs into the cigarette lighter. And and I told them, the thing about those, like, you don't want to run them forever because they'll burn the motor out, and it's just meant to just inflate your tire. And if there's something else going on, then which as soon as they inflated it, it was ready to go, and they're like, all right. And then they went to unhook it, and then that leak must have been way bigger, because the tire just deflated right then and there. So presumably they had someone come to their rescue. They pulled the tire off, they got it back into town, either had it repaired or replaced, got it back on the car, yada yada yada, life goes on. They were actually heading to Pendleton. Her daughter had a game, and she was going to end up missing the game. So I don't know. I mean, I moved on. To my surprise, the Blue Mountain Summit was actually fairly clear. It didn't really start spitting rain up there until I was coming up and over, and I was about to come right into the valley down below, and then like all the dark clouds kind of just floated away, and all you saw was nothing but bright sun, kind of like now. And then it was smooth sailing from there. As soon as I got to Pendleton, I knew it was just a matter of hours before I'd be home, and I just kept trucking along there. Stopped in La Grande. I went to the Safeway there in La Grande. While I could have gassed up there, I went to the truck stop because it was actually cheaper. And I went to the Safeway there because I went there exactly a year ago, yesterday, same day, and got me a hot chocolate. So I got me a hot chocolate, and then I went down to the truck stop and got me a roast beef sandwich, because I was just jonesing for some roast beast. Yes, I said that. That's what I call it. That kid, when I told the kid I wanted a roast beef sandwich, and he just kind of went wide-eyed. I'm like, that would be roast beef. And he's like, oh yeah. It's kind of funny. And then, aired up the tire a little bit, and then was on my way. And I continued on. Didn't fill up again until Rufus, which in hindsight, I should have just waited, right? Because it was at the halfway mark, and I should have just waited till the next town, because it was like easily 40 cents cheaper, I think, had I just gone to the next town. Live and learn. But if, I topped off at Rufus, I stretched my legs a little bit, because, I'm still, at that point, I was still probably like 2.5 hours out. And then I got home. And so here we get back home to Oregon City, and, I thought I was going to go see another friend of mine last night, but turned out that she just got a new job, and I have yet to hear from her as to how her first day went. So it was like, while I wanted to go see her, I also wanted her to do well on her first day. So I'm home, and I'm home permanently. I can see her anytime. Stevie, on the other hand, Stevie had remarked a few weeks back that he's like, wow, it would really be cool if you could just come home and come home, even if it's just for the weekend, just come home for my birthday, because I really miss you, man. Like, yeah, we might be able to make that happen. Maybe. He didn't know that I'd already been planning to come home. And see, that's why it was so important for me to get home as early as I did. I wanted to be able to surprise Steve, as well as my niece, for her birthday. So, and she doesn't know that I'm here yet. As far as I know, she doesn't know I'm here yet. I'm hoping that, because I have to wait till the 17th to go see her. I'm hoping she did, that the surprise hasn't been spoiled, because that would kind of suck. But it'll be good to see my niece again. But so, we were on the phone. I had hands free. Had him on speakerphone while I was driving. He's like, oh, you must have got off work early. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you got lack of work. That happens from time to time. Which is technically a little white lie, but I wasn't working, and I wasn't there for lack of work, because, well, I'm not working there anymore. So therefore, I just justified it in my mind. Anyway, so I got in town, just here in my hometown, just in time. The Home Depot that I worked at, I came and visited them, for the last little bit that they were open, and I saw a few of my old coworkers. In fact, Cody stood right behind him and turns around and he looks at me, and he's like, oh, you're just gonna go scare a motherfucker like that? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, wait, Bill, you're supposed to be in Kentucky. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm home. So we were chit-chatting. Max and I chit-chatted. Caleb and I chit-chatted. And will I go back to that Home Depot? I don't know yet. I've only been home a day, less than a day, and I haven't really decided where I'm going yet, what I'm doing. I know that, Steve and his mom will put me up for a couple days, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. But it was, the look on his face was priceless, because he passed out. I tried to call him back, and I'm knocking on the door, and fortunately his sister comes home. She's like, oh, hey, dude, yeah, come on in. And so Stevie's passed out. He was, his mom was watching TV, or, she was doing something on her phone, and Stevie had just passed out, on her bed there. And so his sister had me, was like, hey, Mama, I got a surprise for you. I got a surprise for Stevie. And she looked up, and she was like, surprised. And she goes and wakes Steve up, and she's like, Steve, there's a surprise here for you. And he kind of wakes up, and he's looking up at me, and he's trying to, he sees I'm just standing there, and then he's like, that's Bill. Wait, that's Bill. And then he wakes up, and he's like, wait, I'm not dreaming. Bill's here. And, his mom gave me a big hug and she said, welcome home, son. And Steve, it looked like Steve was almost going to break down into tears. And he came and he gave me a big hug and he's like, I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad to see you too, buddy. And of course they put me up. So at that point, my trailblazing to Oregon came to an end. My adventure of trailblazing to Oregon has officially concluded. And this is the last of it. This is the last video of that series. And it has been an amazing adventure. It's been such a great high for me personally. I hope that I can have many more adventures like this in my life and see new things and meet new people and just be a positive light and be a beacon of positivity. And so this past year has definitely changed me, and I'd like to think that I'm better for it. Am I going to have some ups and downs? Of course I am. Am I going to rant and rave? Of course I am. But it is my hope that this experience has left such an indelible impression upon me that I'll always choose to be righteous and positive as much as possible. So I've said it a lot throughout this series, but I really cannot thank each and every one of you enough for having been a part of this journey in my life. And you can never know what it's done for me personally. So I'm home. And I feel like now it's time to put my big boy trousers on and my big boy galoshes on and go out and face the world and truly live life. And that's my goal, is to live life like I've never lived it before. Not carelessly, not recklessly, but to live well, which I don't think I've ever done. I think there are some points in my life where I lived better than other points in my life, but I don't know that I ever lived well. And so going forward, I want to live better and I want to live well. I love you all. Thank you all for being on this amazing journey with me. And those who are watching this from the future, looking back at the past, thanks for stopping by and watching some random guy, go through this adventure that changed his life. And hopefully there's something here that you see, that you hear, that helps you and yours. I don't know what's going on in your life. I can't know because, I'm not God above. But I do know that no matter how far down you go, no matter how low rock bottom is, there's always a way out. There's always a way back. There's always a way back to redemption. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it to be true. And my road to redemption is through Christ Jesus. We just had Easter, so Easter's pretty important, right? It's where he had conquered death and he rose from the grave. And that's important because he had to die to take on the sin of the world. And that was all past, all present in his time, and all future, which is our present and future. So, he took on all the sin of the world for everyone, for you and me. I'm not claiming to be a great holy roller. I'm not claiming to be the perfect specimen of what a Christian should be. I'm not telling you that, I am without flaws or faults. because I am a deeply flawed and flawed human being and with many, many faults. I am not the example to look at. And I tell everyone that I am not the example to look at. I tell everyone to go seek Jesus, because he is the ultimate example. He was the perfect example. He is the perfect example of God's love. He is the perfect example of God's righteousness. He is the perfect example of God's mercy and grace upon a creation that really doesn't deserve it. Because, see, he gave us free will. He gave us the right to choose. And that right to choose was kind of a double-edged sword, because, he gave us the right to say, F you, I don't want you in my life. He gave you that right. But he also will hold you accountable to that right, as is fair. It is fair. I know a lot of people think that it's not. A lot of people equate sending people to hell as like a form of tyranny. But let's just say this, and I don't want to get too preachy, and I don't want to get too on, but I want to take the moment to say this. The afterlife, there has to be a place, right? Like in the real world, we put offenders, we confine them away from society for a reason, right? It's to keep society safe. It's to keep society from being tainted by the evil acts of others, right? It's so true is the same in the afterlife, right? There is a heaven, there is a hell, there is God, and there is the devil, who likes to sway us away from him. Absolutely, he tries to sway us away from him. And also think of this, all right? You're throwing a party. Okay, let's take it a step further. It's a wedding, right? So when you're sending out your wedding invitations, you expect an RSVP, right? Why do you expect that RSVP? Well, because you have catered for the number of guests that you were expecting, right? And this is where it's kind of a little off from heaven, because God knows who's coming and who's not, because he lives outside of time and he knows everything that happens before it happens. But for the purpose of this exercise, RSVP goes out, and you don't respond, therefore you're not accounted for, so you're turned away. Or better yet, wedding crashers. I've worked security, I've worked weddings, I've kicked people out of weddings because they were crashing, right? They were just there for the free food or whatever. I booted them out, right? So in this context, right, the gift of salvation is your RSVP. Taking on the Lord's Prayer and believing on Jesus and accepting him as your Lord and Savior, and dedicating your life to a service to God, and getting your name written in the book of life, that's you responding to that RSVP. For those who don't respond to that RSVP, for those that choose to reject the offer, right, they essentially, symbolically, they are those wedding crashers that I have kicked out. They don't get to go to the party. So if heaven is a great party and you didn't accept the invitation, see what I mean? So that logic makes sense to us as human beings in that context, but yet we try to differentiate heaven and hell as that's not really the same concept. But it is that concept, and it really does come down to being that simple of a concept. Whatever you choose in life is whatever you're going to choose, right? And it's not going to break my heart if you reject me, Because ultimately, that's not for me to judge. I mean, on a personal level, if you're a good friend of mine, I'm gonna be kind of bummed and be like, man, I really would love to spend all of eternity with my buddy here. But and I'll be saddened by it. But at the same time, you know, if you want me to respect you for your views and your beliefs and your opinions, which I do, then I also have to respect that if you choose to reject his gift of salvation, that's not for me to judge. It's not for me to condemn. Um, that's your business with him. That's between you and him. Um, my job is to just kind of lead you to finding your golden ticket, as it were. You know, you got to do the rest. You know, I can give you my insights. I can give you what I know and why I believe and all the, personal testimony, right? I can give you that, but I can't truly force you to see what I see. I mean, you have to see that for yourself. You have to, your own heart and your spiritual eyes have to see that for yourself. So, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. So, I thank all of you. I thank God above. And thank you for being on this adventure with me. So, do take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And this adventure has been nothing but happy trails. Who knows? Maybe we'll do other videos in the future. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm just a grateful guy who's glad to be home and is wrapping up a tremendous video series. Now, it's going to take me forever to get all these videos uploaded because where I'm staying right now is kind of a dead spot for phone service or my internet service. But eventually they'll get there. Eventually you'll see this. So happy trails and goodbye. Thank you. Until we meet again.